I just cannot believe this guy Biden. I mean, he's a criminal. You know, his very first act, the very first day, was to cancel the Keystone XL pipeline.
So when I saw Bitcoin go to 20,000, I don't know what it was, they dropped down to $1, so it's toast. But then it came roaring back. So when it hit 6,000, I bought 60 Bitcoin at 6,000.
Robert Kiyosaki just dropped another doomsday prediction that could either ruin your life or make you a millionaire. Rising debt, dying banks, an extended recession, a collapsing economy. How do we survive the economic catastrophe and even thrive in times of great uncertainty? The best-selling author of the #1 finance book in the world, Rich Dad Poor Dad, gives priceless advice in this video. So let's find out. On the 1st of March 2023, he tweeted, "Please, please, please. World economy on the verge of collapse. Runs of banks next. Saving frozen? Bailins next? I make no money when you buy real silver. I simply want you prepared for what is coming." What exactly is coming? The demise of fake money. The BRICS nations are coming. Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, and now Saudi Arabia. What's happening? In 2017, the Bank of International Settlements made gold Tier 1 asset. Up until then, the US Treasury was the Tier 1 asset, so the whole world was filled with US Treasuries and bonds. So what's going to happen is when they keep raising interest rates, those treasuries will become worthless. That's why Kiyosaki refers to treasuries and bonds as fake. Japan has had quantitative easing for years and years and is now filled with US Treasuries. So is China, so is the Fed, and so it just started to unwind a few months ago. So in 2017 again, there was a reverse repo, and a reverse repo was what happened just before 2008 in America. In a reverse repo, what happens is the Fed will give money to, let's say, a Tier 1 bank like Bank of America. So if the Fed gives money to Bank of America, that's called a repo. They're backing up Bank of America. But another scenario is that Bank of America and all the Tier 1 banks give back to the Fed. They don't want the money. They don't want the bond. Let's say Bank of America gives the money back to the Fed. That's saying we don't want to lend money anymore because it's an indictment. We're going down now. Raising those interest rates will crash the bonds because who wants a 5% bond when you can get a 10% bond? The rumor is this: Japan may join the BRICS. And what will happen is that instead of a bailout like with Lehman Brothers in 2008, where the taxpayer gave money to Lehman Brothers, there'll be a bail-in, which happened in Cyprus. When they give all those back to the Fed, people will run on Bank of America, and the bank will say, "Our doors are shut," because it's a run on the bank. But guess what? Instead of your cash or your savings, we will give you back stock in Bank of America. That's a bail-in. Now, I hope it doesn't happen, but that's what I was writing about. So, as you know, I'm a huge gold and silver nut, and I would rather have silver right now, which is the biggest bargain in world history today. Real estate was a boomer's investment because it was debt for future Americans, but it's silver today. In the best-selling Rich Dad Poor Dad, we learn a lot. One is this: the primary difference between a rich person and a poor person is how they manage fear. There's a lot to be fearful of in this world today. Can you name a few of the biggest risks that we face? How do we manage our fear of what's coming up? The fear comes when you have so many people all over the world who went to school and drank this Kool-Aid. Go to school. That's the poor dad, you know, Rich Dad Poor Dad. His book is still #1 in the world after 26 years by Publishers Weekly. So what happened? Go to school, get a job, work hard, pay taxes, save money, buy a house because your house is an asset, get out of debt, and put your money in a well-diversified portfolio of stocks, mutual funds, and ETFs. Worst financial advice possible. All of our heads went to school, and so the story of Rich Dad Poor Dad is that it was a song of my poor dad. His poor dad was a PhD holder. Went to school, got a job, worked hard, got good grades, worked hard, saved money, got out of debt, bought a house, paid taxes, saved money, and then invested in the stock market. But check this out. The Fed just announced that they're going to raise interest rates again. All paper assets, stocks, mutual funds, ETFs, and real estate are going to crash. And this is going to crash the US dollar. What could be the safe haven? Robert Kiyosaki even calls himself a gold and silver bug for good reason. He owns a gold mine that he just took public this July on the New York Stock Exchange. You can go to his website and hear him ringing the bell. It's the richest gold mine in America, found in Utah. For sure, yeah. So in this crash, you want to be owning hard assets, things that protect you, stable assets. What about cryptocurrencies? What about something like Bitcoin? How do you feel about Bitcoin relative to this crash? He owns Bitcoin, but he took it as a technical trade. It went up to $20,000 a while ago and then dropped. When it dropped, I bought it, and you can bet he's in the green. Especially on days like these that banks are collapsing, Kiyosaki claims he was begging people, especially young people, change your thinking. Get rid of that mantra. Go to school, get a job, work hard, buy stocks and bonds, save cash. Kiyosaki was calling for a market correction, and a big crash happened last year. It was huge in terms of GDP. Stocks and bonds together fell over 50%. It was the largest crash on record. Worse than 2008 in terms relative to the US GDP. Not a lot of people know that. It was a very terrible year because our debt to GDP ratio in 2008 wasn't this bad. But after it crashed, Ben Bernanke started printing. They called it quantitative easing. It's basically printing money, and that's why in 2013 he wrote the book Rich Dad's Prophecy to warn people that the crash was going to get bigger. In the book, Kiyosaki warned that it's going to get bigger because the debt to GDP ratio is currently 130%, the biggest in world history. Our debt is through the roof, and the Fed is raising interest rates which make that debt more expensive. To be honest, you don't have to go to school to know that. Is inflation going to persist, or is it going to continue coming down? The guru thinks it's here to stay for a while. It's not just that they printed, trillions after the lockdowns, but the real reason is in the first act that the US President Joe Biden executed. Kiyosaki says cutting off the Keystone Pipeline from Canada to America was a big mistake. The veteran businessman sold oil and used to be an oil tanker officer for Standard Oil. He says, "I was selling oil at $30 a barrel on the spot exchange. As you know, that day went up to $130 a barrel. When that happened, I knew what Biden was up to. Guys like me get richer, so you sell oil for $30, also get $130. Why is there an anti-oil movement right now that's so pervasive? I understand the whole environmental argument, I get that. But to cut off oil, the lifeline of our society right now, seems a bit premature to me. When the economy crashes and real estate crashes with it, are there pockets around the US where the housing markets will be more stable? Kiyosaki says real estate has nothing to do with housing. It has to do with jobs. The reason Kiyosaki got out of California and Oregon and moved to Arizona was because TSC, Taiwan Semiconductors, moved there. He makes this clear all the time. Most of his apartment houses are next to oil wells like in Houston and Dallas and Oklahoma. So as long as there's jobs, real estate will be okay. But if, let's say, Google left, or Elon Musk took Tesla out, keep an eye out. Elon Musk has already moved Tesla to Texas. See? That's what he would watch. Where are the jobs moving to? That's real estate. If you're predicting a crash in real estate and it's linked to the job market, I'm assuming you're also predicting unemployment to go back up. Kiyosaki would rather buy precious metals because it has real value for what it's worth. You should too. Thanks for watching this video. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss out on any of our videos. See you next time. Stay tuned.